Good evening. It's Friday, April 24th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. And we begin with news San Diegans have been waiting for, especially with temperatures rising. County beaches will be allowed to reopen soon to swimmers and surfers. Another big announcement, face coverings will be required in public countywide, effective May 1st. Today, health officials also reported 2 more deaths and a hefty 183 new cases. KPBS reporter Joe Hong has the latest.
Many officials say the big jump in COVID-19 cases is largely due to testing. On Thursday, more than 3,100 people were tested in the county, compared to about 2,200 the previous day.
We always knew that as we did more testing, we would see more positive cases. This does not inherently by itself mean that there's wider spread. It could simply mean that there's greater awareness due to greater testing.
Testing capacity is going up, but stricter mandates are also on the way. As of May 1st, all county residents will be required to wear a face mask within 6 feet of a non-household member.
We believe that there is increased evidence that this is not only helpful, but perhaps just as importantly, we believe this is going to be a part of life in the new normal.
At the state level, rates of positive test results saw a 5% increase, while rates of hospitalization remained stable since yesterday. Earlier in the day, Governor Gavin Newsom announced a partnership with FEMA aimed at addressing 2 critical issues: keeping senior citizens from going hungry while helping local restaurant workers keep jobs.
This partnership will allow for the ability for restaurants to start rehiring people or keep people currently employed and start preparing meals, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and have those meals delivered to our seniors all throughout the state of California.
Seniors will be reimbursed up to $66 a day, which Newsom said will hopefully help local government budgets.
The generation of local sales taxes associated with these purchases actually could start generating revenue and support for the local economies.
But there are requirements. Seniors must have a high risk of exposure to COVID-19, and their incomes must be below 6 times the poverty line to qualify. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
The other major headline from county supervisors, the reopening of the ocean. Despite the warm weather, we will have to wait until Monday. Swimmers, surfers, kayaking, and paddleboarding will all be allowed. Parking lots, piers, and boardwalks will remain closed as social distancing restrictions stay in place along the beaches. And then as for boaters, no set timeline has been set for them. A reminder, state beaches will remain closed and individual jurisdictions can still be placed restrictions on beach usage. Meanwhile, South County cities have been increasing restrictions in response to rising COVID numbers, but head north and it's a different story. KPBS reporter John Carroll says government officials in the North County want to let businesses reopen.
On Wednesday, the Oceanside City Council voted to demand the county allow it to decide when to reopen not only beaches, but also businesses. The motion to do that came from Councilman Chris Rodriguez.
You can walk into a Walmart and buy clothes or get your tires changed. You should have the capacity to do anything that is similar. You can go to a Kohl's. Why can't you go into a Kohl's right now? Why can't you go buy a car right now?
Last week, a similar motion was voted down by the County Board of Supervisors. It came from Supervisor Kristen Gaspar and was supported by Supervisor Jim Desmond.
I think we can both follow the guidelines, fight the virus, and get businesses back open.
Acknowledging that we're headed into a weekend with the kind of weather that makes people want to go outdoors, Supervisor Greg Cox began the county briefing with a reminder that, quote, unity is our strength. The county is using 5 federal guidelines to decide when to begin reopening. County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten says the county is only meeting 3 of those metrics right now. But Supervisor Desmond says there's a happy medium that can be met, so the economic fallout doesn't get even worse.
But I think we can take those same safety measures that have been put in place and expand them. And to some businesses, I think we should open up a few. Take the low-hanging fruit, the large warehouse stores, maybe some restaurants that have been the hardest hit, do all the social distancing.
But at the county news conference, Supervisor Nathan Fletcher said the county's actions are saving lives, and he said it's not just about 1 or 2 jurisdictions.
We are an interconnected county. where people travel and people move and people go around. We also have an interconnected healthcare system.
As the weather warms and the disagreements between local officials mount, the toll coronavirus is taking on all of us is changing. But one thing is clear, we are in completely uncharted waters. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Mexican health officials say as of today, 110 people have died of COVID-19 in Tijuana. This moves Tijuana past San Diego County as death counts in both regions have ticked upwards in recent days. Across the state of Baja California, Mexicali is the only other city in double digits with 39 reported deaths. Across the entire state, 163 people have now died. 46 of those are over the age of 65. Immigrant rights organizations teamed up with medical professionals today to deliver 1,000 face masks to the Otay Mesa Detention Center. But as KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us, the company that runs the facility told them they could leave the masks on the curb.
The Otay Mesa Detention Center is now home to the largest outbreak in immigration detention in the country. 57 ICE detainees are now positive for coronavirus. That's along with 37 individuals in U.S. Marshals custody and 18 employees here at Otay Mesa Detention Center. For weeks, as conditions worsened, detainees raised the alarm about a lack of medical equipment, such as masks or their ability to maintain social distance. At least 12 detainees are currently on hunger strike to protest the lack of health precautions in the facility. They say they're being moved around the facility without any regard to mixing different populations and possibly spreading the disease. Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez spoke about how the outbreak sets back any efforts to lower the toll of coronavirus in the county.
That makes this the biggest hot spot in the county, possibly in the state. And what we know is if there were over 100 people infected with coronavirus in any other setting, if it was a nursing home, if it was a hospital, they'd be demanding to shut it down.
Gonzalez, joined by the partner of a man detained in Otay Mesa, tried to deliver the masks, but were turned back by CoreCivic security. They were told they could leave the masks on the sidewalk and maybe someone would come along and pick it up. With hunger strikes now stretching into their second week at the detention center, the situation at Otay Mesa Detention Center continues to worsen. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
Top Navy leaders have asked to do an about-face and reinstate the captain of the San Diego-based USS Roosevelt. As KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh tells us, the decision is being held up by the Secretary of Defense.
Captain Brett Crozer was relieved of his command in early April by Acting Secretary of the Navy Thomas Modly after a letter by Crozer criticizing the Navy's slow coronavirus response became public. Modly then resigned after flying to Guam to give a rambling address to the Roosevelt's crew. Mark Rapolo attended the Naval Academy with Crozer in 1992. He says restoring a commander is nearly unprecedented.
I think it shows that he was acting in the best interest of his ship and of the crew and following policies and procedures that weren't fully scripted for the Navy for this type of situation, but that were appropriate.
Rapolo was one of several friends who publicly came to Crozer's defense. He's been speaking to Crozer periodically. He says he doesn't believe the captain intended the letter to become public.
I think he's at peace with whatever happens, and he has wanted to do right by the crew and the Navy.
The crew cheered the captain of the Roosevelt as he left the ship in early April. 840 crew members have tested positive for the virus. One has died. Most of the crew has been moved to quarters in Guam. The Navy announced Friday that the Chief of Naval Operations, Michael Gilday, wanted to restore Crozer to his command. The decision is now in the hands of Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Another warship at sea is reporting a coronavirus outbreak. The Navy says at least 18 crew members aboard the USS Kidd have tested positive. The destroyer, operating in the Pacific off the coast of Central America, is returning to port. The Navy says it expected additional cases to be confirmed. Help is on the way for struggling businesses and hospitals strained by the coronavirus pandemic. Today, President Trump signed a $484 billion relief package. It includes $250 billion to help small and medium-sized businesses continue to pay workers while forced to stay closed. There's also $100 billion for hospitals and a nationwide testing program. The parts of San Diego County with the most confirmed cases of COVID-19 also have the fewest hospital beds, according to recent data. Here's KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser.
In the South Bay, zip codes from Otay Mesa and Chula Vista both have more than 100 cases. And there are just two major hospitals that serve the area, Sharp Chula Vista Medical Center with just over 330 beds, and Scripps Mercy Hospital Chula Vista with just over 170 beds. In fact, 87% of the region's 7,000 beds are in San Diego and cities north of San Diego, leaving less than 900 total beds in South Bay cities. However, hospital officials said if South Bay hospitals are filled to capacity, they could move patients to other regions. Sharp Grossmont CEO Scott Evans said the Chula Vista Hospital is also working to increase its capacity.
Normally, we operate with about 48 ICU beds. Today, we are operating with 75. And I can tell you that we are already overflowing into those.
Hospitals across the San Diego region are collaborating to help each other handle patient volume, said Dr. Christopher Longhurst, Associate Chief Medical Officer at UC San Diego Health.
We are all working together across usually competitive lines to make sure that we can serve the population well.
Another region that could struggle to handle patient capacity as cases of COVID-19 increase is Riverside and San Bernardino, according to the data. While San Diego, Orange, and Los Angeles counties each have more than 21 beds per 10,000 people, the Riverside and San Bernardino region has 17 beds per 10,000 people. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
To explore the map showing hospitals and number of beds, you can go to kpbs.org. Practice time is almost over. On Monday, students in the San Diego Unified School District will resume graded work from home. To help more students succeed with distance learning, Cox Communications is offering free internet services and increased speeds to low-income families. The San Diego Public Library has also moved many of its resources and literary collections online. Nonprofits that serve Imperial County's 1,400 homeless residents say they're facing significant struggles during the coronavirus pandemic. iNewsSource reporter Jennifer Bowman has more.
For 5 years, the Brown Bag Coalition has served dinners nightly to Calexico's homeless. That hasn't stopped with the pandemic, even though the organizers have less help, fewer donations, and more safety precautions. The coalition, along with other nonprofits that help the homeless charity in Brawley, says it's seen a drop in donations and had to cancel the group's two biggest fundraising events. Here's the nonprofit's founder, Jessica Solorio.
We took a huge hit financially to be able to sustain our programs that we normally have. So we've had to just focus basically on COVID-19.
Even before the coronavirus, all but about 200 of the county's homeless were unsheltered. That's why county officials are using more than $400,000 from a state emergency grant to put some of the homeless in motel rooms. But they acknowledge the demand for housing is greater than what's available. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Jennifer Bowman.
For more on Imperial County's homeless struggles, you can go to iNewsSource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. It was a high-flying and fun salute to our healthcare workers. Photojournalist Roland Lizarrando shows us the dozen planes paying tribute over area hospitals.
I think it just warms our heart to see people come out on their time off. They didn't have to do this. This is our job. We chose to do this job.
It was a nice gesture to say thank you. There's been a lot of, community people thanking us.
we all go in and we try to give the best, most compassionate care we can in the instance and in the environment that we're in. And we just want people to know that we're working hard.
What do you think about your mom helping all these people?
She's a hero.
And we are following all of the latest coronavirus developments for you at kpbs.org. Just click on the tracking COVID-19 link that's on our homepage and you'll be taken to a page with all of our recent reports. You can find that right now at kpbs.org. And it looks like we are in for a hot weekend. Jeff Cornish has your forecast.
Well, this Friday evening, it is a warm one out there across Southern California. Heat advisory does continue for inland areas with lower elevation. So basically not the coast and not the mountains, but most of the Inland Empire and other surrounding areas of inland parts of San Diego County up into areas just east of Orange County's coastline as well, for example, under a heat advisory until 6 p.m. Saturday. So one afternoon down, one more to go with these heat advisories. Records will be challenged in some parts of Southern California over the next day or two. Here are the heat advisories, and you can see Ramona, El Cajon, Escondido, these areas under heat advisories as time marches through Saturday afternoon as well. Tonight, we'll get a little relief down to 58 in Ramona. Borrego Springs staying warm, 70 there. Into Chula Vista, 60 degrees. San Diego, 62 for your low. It'll be an unseasonably warm Saturday, warm and dry. High pressure is with us. It's a gentle offshore wind for the coast. Some areas in the canyons and passes are dealing still with a slightly more active, gustier breeze and wind at times, though. And as we look at the highs tomorrow, very warm. Still 80 degrees in San Diego, 90 in Escondido, and around 91 in Ramona, El Cajon, about 94 degrees. Borrego Springs, the heat is on 103 degrees there. Their first big stretch of heat here for the new year. And into next week, temperatures for many will be pretty stifling, especially in the inland areas. Coastal locations will cool down just a little bit, and we're going to be dealing with this very dry weather here. So we held on to the wet season perhaps a little longer than expected, longer than we often do, but the season is indeed changing and the dry weather is here. Coastal areas do dip down into the mid-70s beginning on Monday after a very warm start to the forecast. Inland areas backing down from 92 to the mid-80s, but the deserts are going to be steamy and the mountains will be holding on to the warmth near 70 still on Tuesday with lots of sunshine. And the deserts holding on to the triple-digit heat. This is where the heat will be relentless into the early to mid part of next week. I'm meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
With most San Diegans staying home, there are fewer cars and more people walking, jogging, or cycling. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says advocates say now is a good time to make some changes.
It's just been a lot more easy, more calm, just more peaceful.
Anne King-Conchaldi is riding her bike more often these days, and she's not alone. She's noticed more people in her neighborhood of North Park biking, walking, and jogging. She says with gyms, beaches, and some parks closed, people are looking for ways to stay active and get some fresh air, not to mention fend off the cabin fever.
And now that there's less cars on the street, it definitely is just more enjoyable. You can go at a slower pace. We, sometimes we'll kind of zigzag through the side streets now instead of just taking one straight route and, get there quickly, like it was before. Now we just kind of get to enjoy the roads.
Bike shops are also seeing more business, too. Dan Zapkowski is owner of Pacific Beach Bikes. He says he's seen a flood of new customers, many of them young adults looking for new ways to exercise, and parents who want to ride with their kids but don't have bikes of their own.
And then we're also seeing a huge uptick in old bikes have been sitting around for, 5-10 years. I had a guy bring a bike from storage. He's like, it's been in storage for like 10 or 15 years, It's just needed a total overhaul. We got it in and out within a week, so he was real happy. It saved them money versus buying a new bike.
Last week, representatives from 12 different advocacy groups co-signed a letter to Mayor Kevin Faulconer asking him to make changes to local streets during the pandemic. They want pedestrian signals at intersections to be made automatic so people don't have to risk spreading germs by touching crosswalk buttons. And on some streets, they want the city to cut vehicle lanes or parking so pedestrians and cyclists can have more room for social distancing. Andy Hanshaw, executive director of the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, says San Diego needs to catch up to other cities.
We started to see several cities across the country implement slow street initiatives or networks almost instantly or very swiftly to alleviate the similar problem that we were having here.
Those cities include Oakland, San Francisco, Denver, Minneapolis, and Boston. La Mesa recently made some pedestrian cross signals touchless and automatic. Faulkner is working on a plan in response to the letter, but hasn't made an announcement yet. Hanshaw says the pandemic is providing an opportunity to help more people experience the benefits of safer, quieter streets.
When we come through this and more people have understood sort of what's possible, I think understanding the bigger picture for the climate crisis we're in, and having the opportunity for safer streets and fewer deaths will hopefully be realized and understood more.
In the meantime, Hanshaw says one of the most encouraging things is seeing families bike together.
It really warms your heart and it really makes you think, it's a really sort of important time together. And I think being outdoors, being together and having a safe environment to do that makes you feel better about doing that is what we're seeing. And I think it's great.
Back at the bike shop, Dan Zapkowski says he also hopes people stick with their bikes, and when the need for strict social distancing is over, that they ride some of San Diego's most popular routes, like the Boardwalk or the Mission Bay Path when they reopen.
I hope that people will get to enjoy the same things that I get to do when I get to ride my bike on the Boardwalk. You can pick up a bike for a couple $100, go grab a sunset, and I guarantee you're going to come home with a smile on your face. Absolutely. It's one of the best things ever, I think.
Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
After a roller coaster week on Wall Street, stocks are closing in positive territory. The S&P rose 1.4% today, but still ended the week lower. One business that is booming, though, video streaming services. SDSU's Miro Kopik explains in this Friday Business Report.
Viewership for streaming services has more than doubled since the beginning of the sheltering in place. Disney Plus, they've crossed the 50 million subscriber threshold, just behind Netflix. Netflix has 70 million subscribers in the United States. The show Tiger King on Netflix took off very early during the sheltering in place. Over 34 million households watched some or all of that series. This could be a major issue for networks. Right now, because Hollywood is also sheltering in place, pretty much every television show targeting the fall has been suspended, whether it's on network TV or cable TV. So we're going to see if what happens over the next couple of months, if they can resume production, let's say in the late summer under limited dimensions, that they would be able to actually get shows out in the fall.
San Diego Muslims begin the holy month of Ramadan today, but it's like no other. Social distancing prevents gathering for prayers or feasting, which are two important community activities. Imam Taha Hassan is asking his congregation to look inward.
It's time to turn our homes into our mosques. Make your home as your sanctuary. Have a corner or a room in your home where you can pray together as a family. Whatever we used to do together in the mosque, you can do it together as a family at home.
And Ramadan is observed during the 9th month of the lunar calendar. Muslims fast during daylight hours, then gather for prayers and a feast after sundown. It's considered one of the 5 pillars of the Islamic faith. Diversionary Theater is the 3rd oldest LGBTQ theater in the United States, but like other live theaters, it's closed because of COVID-19. Well, sort of. Here's KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando.
It's difficult to run a live theater and be forced to close your doors because of a pandemic, says Diversionary Theater's artistic director Matt Morrow.
No doubt it has been scary. You know, we're a theater. We're in the business of bringing people together in a real time and real space. And when you can't do what you're literally built to do, it really puts a cramp in your style.
It also impacts your ability to generate income, so Diversionary is holding its fundraising gala online.
The program that we have lined up is really delightful. Jay Wilson, who was our Hedwig and the Angry Inch, is going to be hosting and performing.
The Royal Uprising Ball takes place Saturday and includes an online silent auction and raffle. You can also support Diversionary by buying virtual tickets to plot points in our sexual development.
The beautiful thing about this show is that it's really two people on stage telling their very compelling, very interesting, moving stories directly to the audience and directly to each other. And so it works in this really minimal way exceptionally well.
How is it possible that there is a person on this earth who could be like, wow, you know what I really want? I want to be smart and generous and funny and compassionate and look like this femmy, pretty lady and snuggle up to this genderqueer trans person who is not a woman and is not a man, but is kind of a man who loves lesbian jokes. I mean, what?
The play is available through April 30th at diversionary.org. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Updating our top story now, county beaches will be allowed to reopen on Monday morning to swimmers and surfers. Another big announcement, face coverings will be required in public county-wide. That's effective on May 1st. Health officials also reported 2 more deaths and 183 new cases following the single largest day of testing. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.